It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join News Director Paul David and News Editor Philip Katafamo as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics in Yavapai County that affect all our lives. And now here's today's Countywide.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Countywide. I'm your host, Philip Katafamo. I'd like to thank you for joining me. On today's show, we are talking with the Prescott National Forest, and my guest today is Forest Fuel Specialist Keith Borghoff. Keith, welcome on to the program.
Thank you very much, Philip. Good to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you. As we all know, we did have a few recent storms here in the area, and we want to start out with this. With those recent storms, including the ones that just occurred last night, what are the conditions across the Prescott National Forest?
Well, I would like to say that they're a little bit better than they are right now from a wildfire perspective, but unfortunately that's not really the case.
Okay.
So as most Arizonans know at this point, we've been in a drought for quite a long time. And, you know, I guess starting back with last summer, we had a very weak monsoon moving into so far this year of 2021. We're definitely below normal in precipitation. So any precipitation that we do get is going to be helpful depending on the fuel type in most situations. However, the duration is going to be very limited. So although we received some significant moisture recently, ultimately the drought persists and is expected to persist well into the summer.
Okay.
You know, we've kind of moved from, as far as a transition, you know, several months ago from being in an exceptional drought, we transitioned into being, particularly in Yavapai County, into more of an extreme drought. And with that recent moisture that we received, we've kind of transitioned into more of a extreme, severe drought situation, depending on exactly where you are in the county. So with that in mind, you know, we were able to take advantage of that recent moisture for to do some hazardous fuels treatment activities. However, from a wildfire perspective, as we move into the spring, that recent moisture did very little to help us in most of our fuel types.
So that's a shame, because you kind of assume, and me obviously not fully understanding, you know, just how much moisture we really need. And I kind of thought that, you know, we had those big storms, I believe, earlier this month, and it dropped a whole bunch of snow in Prescott, a whole bunch of snow in Sedona and Flagstaff, a little bit here in Cottonwood. And I kind of assumed that, oh, great, you know, we're not going to cure our drought problem, but it would put a nice dent into it and have us have a little bit more of a better outlook going into, you know, the fire season. But it seems like, you know, Keith, you just said it, we didn't get as much moisture as we needed onto those grasslands and into those heavy logged areas.
That's correct. That's correct. So, you know, based on where we are with our overall fuel condition, one shot of moisture, if you will, is unlikely to have a significant difference. Okay. So, you know, we're kind of looking at the different fuels that we have. We have our heavier fuels in the mountains, and we have our lighter fuels in the valleys and the basins. And so, you know, those lighter fuels, although they're much more affected by moisture initially, they also dry out quite a bit faster within a very short time frame if that moisture does not persist. So in our lighter fuels, our grasslands and our shrublands, you know, as far as providing a measure of just increased success in suppressing fire and whatnot, that didn't last very long. In our heavier fuels, you know, that did. So in our mountain fuels, our larger fuels, our woody vegetation and whatnot, larger diameter fuels, you know, there's definitely some more relief there, and that relief continues now. But those heavier fuels take longer to dry out. So moisture, particularly in the form of snow, will give us immediate relief, but that relief lasts only as long as it takes for those heavier fuels to dry out and get back to seasonal norms. And then once that happens, we're kind of right back where we started. So we're kind of at an average point right now when it comes to our fuel condition. But the outlook for moisture moving into the spring isn't that great. And so with the absence of additional moisture, I think we're going to be starting up where we would maybe a little bit behind where we would normally start up, where we have normal to above normal fire potential going into the spring.
The curse of 2020 unfortunately carries into 2021 regarding our wildfire season, but
Right.
We're ready for it. Again, we're speaking with Prescott National Forest fuel specialist Keith Borghoff. Keith, wildfires experienced on the forest in January. Can you tell us a little bit about those, and how unusual was it to have those fires at that time of the year?
So we did have several fires, and I think right now for 2021, we have experienced a little over 1,200 acres in wildfires, and those fires have occurred at our lower elevations in our grassland and our shrubland type areas. I can't say this for certain at this point, but I believe that those fires have primarily been associated with roadway fires, vehicle related, and also shooting related. And so to have 1,200 acres burned so far this calendar year is unusual. And it's a testament to the fact of the drought that we are in. It's a testament to the fact that we have had very limited moisture relative to normal. In fact, we used to prepare on most Forest Service units for a fire season. And more often across the country now, we're preparing more for a fire year because that season is just expanding both at the front end and the tail end to the point where there are very few months of the year when we're not in some type of fire season, particularly in the Southwest.
Yeah, I would assume so. And, it seems like last year, all it was last year was a lot of those roadside fires. And I know that, it's just more speculation at this point as opposed to a direct pinpoint as to what caused those fires. But, it just goes to show that throughout the year, we still have to keep with the don't park on the side of the road, don't leave your vehicle idling on the side of the road, because those fuels along those highways, they catch quickly. And we saw that all last year.
They really do. They really do. And it's a current concern all over the county, and it seems to be spreading. So historically, we saw most of our wildfires in the I-17 corridor, particularly as you have vehicles traveling from south to north. They start coming up those hills. They get real hot. They're pulling over, and we've got those fine fuels that are growing right up against the highway. And then from north to south, you run into the breaks that cause those same issues. So, but that problem is really expanding beyond the I-17 corridor. We're seeing it on Highway 69. We're seeing it on Highway 169, even in the flats, where those fine fuels that are built up along the side of the road are definitely causing problems when folks are parking too close or have just vehicle malfunctions that cause fires.
Yeah, our fuels are quite dry here, unfortunately, in northern Arizona, so please do not park on the side of the road if your vehicle is hot. Find the designated areas to pull off of, and don't park into shrubs that will catch fire. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will talk about burning on the forest and La Nina on the other side of this break. Countywide will be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
The EPA says C&B Construction ranks in the top 1% nationally. C&B Construction invites you to see what energy efficiency and indoor air quality can be. We have won another Department of Energy Innovation Award, and C&B Construction is the only contractor in the country to win 6 consecutive EPA Indoor Air Plus awards. Experience our zero-energy, move-in ready homes at Crossroads at Mingus.
C&B Construction, locally respected, nationally recognized. Find out more at candbhomes.com.
Been hearing about the crazy benefits of CBD? Find out how CBD can help you at Sedona's #1 resource, CBD Sedona. Come in for a free consultation and let our trained medical staff help you find the perfect product for you. Pain-relieving salves, full spectrum oils, CBD skincare, bath bombs, and even CBD for your pets. Come on by CBD Sedona today.
Terrifying jobs, high-flying linemen, take 3.
Josh, this is an absolutely terrifying job. Why do you do it?
It's a very demanding job, but very rewarding and exciting.
How much energy are you actually working with up there?
500,000 volts of electricity.
It's definitely not my line of work. Does anything shock you?
Yeah, distracted drivers terrify me.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Countywide. I'm your host, Philip Catafamo. On today's program, we are talking with Prescott National Forest Fire Fuel Specialist Keith Borghoff. In the first segment, we talked about, even with our recent storms, conditions on the forest and throughout northern Arizona are still quite dry. So please be careful with fire or fire-related activities if you are recreating outside or if you're parked on the side of the freeway due to a vehicle issue. But conditions are still very dry regardless of the recent storms we had last night or earlier this month. Keith, we talked about the storms coming in. Has that given the forest an opportunity to do some burning and are there any priority areas that you guys want to get done before you get to the point where you can't burn anymore?
So, Philip, what we've been focusing on for this last, month, I would say, is more pile burning. So when we have timber stand improvement projects in our ponderosa pine on the Prescott National Forest, most of those activities leave behind piles out in the woods. I'm sure most folks recreating have seen those. And we have to burn those at some point to reduce that fuel loading. And the ideal time to burn those piles is when there's snow on the ground. That limits the creep beyond the initial sphere of that pile, provides some protection to the surrounding vegetation. And so, unfortunately, as we're all aware, these last couple of years, significant snow for a longer duration has been minimal. And so we have to take advantage of every shot of moisture that we have to burn those piles. So folks have probably seen some smoke in the air from pile burning, particularly in the Prescott Basin, mostly south of Prescott, Arizona. And just take advantage of this recent weather to eliminate those intentional buildups of fuels there after the timber stand improvement and other type of operations like that in the ponderosa pine.
What about the Cherry area and along Senator Highway in Prescott? Any operations going on over there?
We do. So Cherry area, actually, we just conducted approximately 80 acres of pile burning in the last couple of weeks around Cherry. That was very successful, left behind after Log Springs exercise in forest health treatments there. So we're happy to get that done. We do quite a bit of treatments at both broadcast pile burning and mechanical treatments in the Cherry area. Primarily for community protection around that area. Senator Highway, a lot going on as well. There's residual piles always going on, being burned in that area as a result of forest health treatments. And then, just that entire corridor there is always a focus of us for both vegetation treatments as well as road work and things like that over time.
As you mentioned, there are current burns going on. Any chance of broadcast burns?
Absolutely. So, this past weekend was kind of a pivot point for us. Depending on the amount of moisture that we received this weekend, that might have pushed us in a different direction for continuing with pile burning, where we'd like to have some good moisture on the surface, as opposed to broadcast burning, where we want it to dry out a little bit. Based on what we've seen, I expect here in the near future, we're going to be transitioning from a pile burning situation more to a broadcast burning situation in very particular spots that are very deliberate, and taking advantage of some drier weather before it gets too dry in order to implement some of those smaller scale burns.
The National Weather Service is expecting things to dry out again due to our La Nina weather phenomenon, which is not bringing enough moisture to our area, essentially. Is the forest gearing up early this year for what is typically our fire season?
Yeah, early is becoming a relative term, kind of like normal is becoming very relative as well.
Very much so.
Because things are just expanding on both ends, as we talked about earlier. So I would say that we're very cognizant that the fuel conditions, which we're in a pretty bad spot towards the end of last summer with the lack of monsoon, how dry everything was, and we haven't seen a whole lot of relief for that across the winter. We ended up staying in fire restrictions fairly late into the year last fall, and I would anticipate the conversations with our cooperators in the local area about going into restrictions maybe a little bit earlier than normal, just based on those environmental conditions out there and the potential with the fuels on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, we're honestly right back where we were last year. Obviously, the pandemic is still going on, but regarding our fire season, we had to start our fire season very early last year as well, putting in a lot of fire restrictions. I'm sure those will be kicking off potentially next month or even later this month. I don't know. I'm just kind of speculating here. But I want to get a quick gauge here, Keith, of you talk about we don't have enough moisture on the ground. I mean, do we need sort of like a NOAA phenomenon, 40 days, 40 nights of absolute rain and snow for us to get to where we need to be moisture-wise? Or is a strong monsoon season a potential Band-Aid for our fuel season? I mean, what do we need? If you were to give me a gauge, what would we need in terms of moisture to, get to where we need to be?
Well, really what we need is just more overall. So if we had, even if it was smaller precipitation totals, but over a longer duration over the course of the year, that would put us in a much better shape. So particularly on the Prescott in central Arizona here, where we have a lot, our grasslands, our shrublands, our fine fuels, where the availability of those fuels to burn is significantly dependent on temperature and precipitation. Okay. And so even smaller percentages and totals over longer durations would help. So between now and the beginning of fire season, more precipitation basically reduces the potential as we go into the spring. It provides some relief from this drought that we've had for so long now, which is making our heavier fuels very available for burning, which we don't like to have immediately in the spring. Our finer fuels are going to be available for burning, just periodically based on temperature. Wind can significantly affect the availability of those fine fuels as well. As far as the monsoon is concerned, the monsoon definitely provides relief in the form of historically an end of a significant fire season in the Southwest, which we look forward to. When we don't have that significant monsoonal moisture, fire season in the Southwest extends well into the fall. And then also we miss opportunities to take advantage of some historical burning at sometimes when we don't have that monsoonal moisture available to us.
So, I mean, with those conditions being so dry, I mean, it's pretty simple. You just be real careful with fire, and again, don't park on the side of highways and into grass or shrubs, regardless if we've had moisture or not. But Keith, before we head into our second break, is there anything else that people should be aware of before they go out and recreate in the forest, just to make sure that we don't have another issue like the bushfire again?
Really our fires on the Prescott National Forest kind of have a fairly close split between natural and human caused. Okay. So when we have those lightning ignitions out there, if people observe those, we want them to report them. That helps us respond faster. And as far as the human caused fires, if you see them, report them. If you start them, take some very limited action that is considering your safety first. And then again, report that and ensure that we can get firefighters to those places rapidly so that we can take the appropriate suppression methods.
Yeah, again, you just got to be real careful. I mean, we're still dry out there, and unfortunately, we're not close to where we need to be with our moisture, even with our recent storms. I mean, hopefully, maybe we'll get a couple more before we head into the summer season, and we can get some possibly monsoons during that as well. But only time will tell. And we've got one more segment here on Countywide. When we come back, we will talk about resources regarding the wildfire season and abandoned campfires. Stick around for that. Countywide. We'll be right back.
Who doesn't dream of home improvements? Perhaps your kitchen, the real living room. Maybe the bathroom, where you bookend your day. Langstrand Contracting is your one-stop shop from tear down to finishing touches. With 35 years of experience, Chris and his team will work with you to match your family's style and budget. Call Langstrand Contracting today for guidance in bringing your vision to life.
Award-winning Soundbites Grill is an entertainment restaurant located in Uptown Sedona at the Hyatt Pinion Point Resort. Open for lunch and dinner, featuring fresh fish, all-natural hand-cut beef, even a full vegan menu. Family-friendly, open 11:30 to 9, late dining on Friday and Saturday. Soundbites Grill has some of the best views of the Sedona Red Rocks. Offers world-class entertainment, food, fun, and music.
Hi, this is Greg at Verde Solar Power. You know, Arizona has lots of clean, renewable sunshine, and we want to help you take advantage of it with our quality solar installations, and we offer to beat any written offer on a residential solar electric system. So bring us your electric bill and let us show you how solar power will save you money. We're located conveniently here in the Verde Valley and are dedicated to helping the valley go solar. So remember, the energy solution comes up every morning.
Starting in the late 1920s, Grandpa Gettle and his brothers laid the groundwork for what would become a family legacy. Almost 100 years and 100 patents later, Gettle's High Desert Mechanical continues to raise the bar of quality heating, cooling, and plumbing products and services in the Verde Valley.
Call Gettle's High Desert Mechanical Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing at 567-2200 or online at GettlesHDM.com, providing solutions for your comfort. Don't settle, get Gettles.
Hello and welcome back to Countywide. I'm your host, Philip Catafamo. I am joined by Prescott National Forest Forest Fuel Specialist Keith Borghoff. We covered a lot in our first two segments, and we've got a little bit more to cover here before we send it off. Keith, we'll start with this. What types of resources will you be bringing in for the wildfire season?
So on the Prescott National Forest, our capacity normally would be 5 wildland fire engines. We have a 10-person fuels/initial attack crew. We have an interagency hotshot crew, and we have an initial attack helicopter crew, as well as numerous overhead and prevention and patrol positions. So those folks are all, for the most part, on right now, with the exception of the temporary employees that are employed on some of those modules who won't be on for another month or so. So we'll have those resources available both on the forest and to support our other areas of the country, as well as we have a very, I think, an appropriate relationship and reliance, if you will, on our cooperators. So it's not just about the resources on the Prescott National Forest. We have our municipal fire departments as well as the state and other federal agencies around us. And we all work really well together to manage the fires that occur in our area.
You mentioned during the break increased patrols. You guys are doing that as well?
Absolutely. So particularly when we start to, when we get into fire season, and particularly a fire season that we expect to have higher probabilities of fires, we'll bring in additional units from outside the area. They're generally other Forest Service units from other parts of the country that maybe aren't into their fire season yet. And we'll have those folks driving around in areas where we expect a lot of visitor use, talking to folks about campfires and campfire safety, and just helping to manage folks' habits out on the land to reduce those human starts.
That was going to be my next question. Is our abandoned campfires still an issue? We've got about a minute left.
They are, and really they are year-round. We have folks available to take care of those year-round. They become more of an issue in the summer because those abandoned campfires can cause larger fires. And so we just ask folks to really, if you're going to have fires, obviously outside of restrictions when it is appropriate, please put them cold out. And then once we go into fire restrictions where we have no campfires, whether it be in or out of developed camp areas, please ensure that you're abiding by those restrictions. No campfires out in the woods. Puts our folks in a really bad bind that is completely preventable.
Well, Keith, we are out of time, but I want to thank you very much for coming on the program and talking to us about this issue. Obviously, conditions are still very dry out on our forests and throughout northern Arizona and Yavapai County. So we'll keep nailing it as much as we can. Be very careful with fires this wildfire season, as even a little spark can cause some big damage, and we would definitely like a little bit more of a quieter wildfire season this year. But
Absolutely.
Keith, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate what you do, and thank you for taking the time to come on the show.
It was good to visit with you. Have a great day.
You too as well. Well, that's going to do it here on Countywide. I'm your host, Philip Catafamo. I want to wish you a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time.